Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Let's get started with Week 64's Word Nerd Wednesday. Now, as I've tried to do on these Word Nerd Wednesdays lately, I take a look at a word or two from the other episodes that week and do a deep dive. Last week, we looked back on the previous Silmarillion Saturday reading to give you a deep dive on a few of the people involved in the drama in Númenor, good guys and bad guys. On the side of the faithful, we had Silmarion, Lindorei, Inzilabeth, and her son Inziladun, better known as Tar Palantir, as well as Miria. On the side of the king's men, we looked at Aradunacor, his we don't talk about Quenya name, Tar Heranumen, Argimilzor, Gimilcad, and his son Pharazôn. Now today we don't have quite as many names to work through, and that's good, but they're all faithful. In fact, they're some of the most well-known of the faithful, and you likely already know a lot about their names, but that's not going to stop me. Let's start with the 18th and last Lord of Andunier, Amandil. Now, as we'll read on Saturday, he was the leader of the remnant of the faithful, living in Romenna now, on the east side of Númenor, where they'd been forced to relocate during the reign of Argimilzor. His name is Quenya, and in the index of names in the Silmarillion, that name is glossed as Lover of Aman. Now, that's also where we learn officially that he was the last Lord of Andunier in Númenor, as he was stripped of his titles for supporting the faithful, and the lordship was, of course, not revived before the downfall. The elements in his name are pretty clear. Aman for the Blessed Realm, and the now recognizable ending Indil, meaning friend, lover, devoted to. Now, quick note on that ending, by the way. Most of the time you'll see that with the N, as in Eärendil, devoted to the sea. But sometimes you'll see it without the N, like in the name of the first of the ruling stewards, Mardil, devoted to the house of the kings. You'll also see it sometimes with just the N, like in Eärnil, which is a shortened version of Eärendil, also meaning devoted to the sea. I should probably also take a moment to explain the Aman element in his name. The element Man means blessed or unmarred, and it's the same root in the name of the chief of the Valar, Manwë. Now, when Amandil, this character, and he wasn't Amandil then, when he first appeared in The Lost Road, he was named Elendil, elf friend, and his son, who we now know of as Elendil, and we'll talk about him next, was named Herendil, fortune friend. But in the Notion Club papers, this character was given the Adunaic name Afanuzir, which is not glossed, but which Eldamo.org suggests likely means bliss friend. When he was given that name, his son was given the name Nimruzir, elf friend, and the Quenya names then shifted accordingly. Now, Amandil shares his name with the third king of Númenor, who reigned some 3 millennia prior, Tar Amandil, who was actually the second ruler of the island as his father Vardamir declined to take the scepter when Elros surrendered his life, passing it instead directly to Tar Amandil. Now, interestingly, the name of Tar Amandil's son, the fourth king of Númenor, was Tar Elendil. Now, this Amandil is famous for his own deeds, of course. His unsuccessful attempt to sail west and seek aid from the Valar, which we'll actually read about next week. But he's mostly known as the father of, well, no surprise here that he named his son after his own namesake's son, Elendil. His name is Quenya, from the elements Elen, meaning star, and the Endil ending. Now, the literal interpretation is devoted to the stars, but because of the close associations with star Elen and elf Elda, meaning people of the stars, the name is generally taken to mean elf friend. And we see this explicitly in the Adunaic name I mentioned earlier, Nimruzir, in the Notion Club papers, made from the objective form of Nimir, elf, and the Zir element, to love. Now, Elendil's sons famously were Isildur and Anarion. Isildur's name is Quenya, and it means servant of the moon, consisting of the elements Ithil, meaning moon, and you've seen this element before, Minas Ithil, Ithildine, and so on, and the dur suffix, sometimes endur suffix. That means servant, and it's seen in names like Meneldur, servant of the heavens, or the name of the office of steward, Arandur, meaning king's servant. Now, the name of Isildur's younger brother, Anarion, is a compound of Anar, meaning son, and the patronymic suffix ion, meaning son of. So he is the son of the sun. Anar uses the root nar, meaning fire. And we see that same root in Feanor, spirit of fire, and Samath Naur, chambers of fire. Now, what's really cool about the elements of their names together is that they make up the name of Elendil's sword, Nar-Sil. As Tolkien himself explains in Letter 347, Nar-Sil is a name composed of two basic stems without variation or adjuncts, Nar, fire, and Thil, white light. It thus symbolized the chief heavenly lights as enemies of darkness, sun, Anar, and moon in Quenya, Isil, which is, of course, Ithil. One last word for today, the city in which these four faithful men lived before the downfall of Númenor, the haven of Romenna. Now, this one's easy, especially if you've been listening to the Prancing Pony podcast, as we've talked about the kings of Gondor, specifically Romendakil, East Victor. Romen means east. Now, it literally means uprising or sunrise, but then it's used for the direction east as a result. The NNA ending is the allative suffix. You might remember this. It means movement to or towards, and we've seen that in one of the names of Númenor, Elenna, starwards. So Romenna is eastwards. And folks, that's it for today's Word Nerd Wednesday. Come back next week as we wander the wide, wild, wonderful world of words weekly on Wednesdays. And if there's a word you want to know more about, please let me know by emailing barliman@theprancingponypodcast.com. Please visit patreon.com/TolkienTimes to learn how you can support the show, get an ad-free feed, a monthly hangout with me, a bonus weekly episode, and a lot more. And join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times for Third Age Thursday. If you're watching this on YouTube, you know the drill. Please like and subscribe. Follow or subscribe in your podcast apps, and follow @Tolkien Times on all your social media. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.